Morning, everyone. Hope you don't mind my voice. I've been doing a lot of speaking this week, and I kind of developed some sore throats. Today is the 19th day of the month of November, and it's such a joy to be with all of us. People normally say no pun intended, pun intended. Joy, such a joy to be with all of you here. And I'm saying that because today we're going to be looking at chapter 25 of the book of First Chronicles, and it's all about worship. And I don't know where you are at this time in your relationship with God, or what. This is something that I think God wants us to talk about this today. And if you have your Bible with you there, like I do, I'm going to turn to First Chronicles chapter 25. And depending on the Bible translation you have, some of them have a heading, and the heading is the musicians. The musicians. When we talk about musicians in our culture today, talk about people who sing. They're not just singers, they are also instrumentalists. So I want you to imagine how life would be if you have a president who is also a sportsman. You and I will know that he's going to put a lot of emphasis on sports. Or you have a minister, an evangelist who was converted a campus student. He's going to have a passion for campus ministry. Talking about myself. Or if you have a leader who loves music, is going to be passionate about music also, and that's what happens all over the time. I know that once upon a time we had an evangelist who was passionate about everything, sports, basketball, American football, cycling, talking about late Nicho Guaya, and we saw how he tried to infuse that into the church in many, many ways. And of course, he was also converted a campus minister, so you can imagine why he loved young people in every way. Now, today in this reading, we have a king who was also introduced to us as a singer, who was a worship leader. So by the time David had consolidated his throne, after the incident that we read, you can see that he was a pretty organized man. Thanking our brothers who encouraged us in the past few days as we looked at several themes in the book of First Chronicles, and you will see the heart of David, being revealed at every single chapter. I mean, yesterday we looked at order in worship, and our brother Body and the Follow did a fantastic job, just letting us know, why we should also, the value of being organized. Order even in our house, and because before that, our brother Scott reminded us about that was chapter 23. We'll look at legacy of leadership. How you need to serve with joy, with diligence, and of course on our brother Frank, talking about God honors preparation for worship. So today, what I'm going to be looking at today, we also have a theme for today. Like we have themes for every day. Let me try to open the Bible here, so it's kind of slowing down. Okay, all right. So we have also a theme for today, like we don't have themes for every single day. So and the theme for today is Gatekeepers of Glory. Gatekeepers of Glory. Looking at First Chronicles chapter 25, and our core message is going to focus on the fact that worship must be guarded. Not guided, guarded. Worship must be guarded. One, our worship must be protected too, and our worship must also be led with devotion. And I think we need this kind of talk in our society today, when we're having all forms of worship, all forms of nuances when it comes to to worship. And the call to action for us today is to guard the sacred with vigilance. Worship is not just well, we're going to find out. I don't want to jump ahead of myself to see what I was going to say, but I'm going to say it as we go on. But let's go to chapter verse 1. Chapter 25. The Bible said that David, and I want to look at that word. There, very few lines. It's more of prose before I go into the names. The very few verses. He said, David together, he didn't do it alone. David together with the commanders of the army. This is serious business. David together with the commanders of the army sets apart some of the sons of, there are three families here. Some of the sons of Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun. Those are the family. For what? For the ministry of prophesying. Set them aside for the ministry of prophesying, accompanied by harps, by lyre, and by cymbal. Here is the list of the men who performed this service. From the son of Asaph, we have the Zachor, Joseph, Nathaniel, Asherah, the sons of Asaph, and every single thing. They go to the sons of Jeduthun. He mentioned all the names, and of course the Heman, from the sons of Bukai, Metiah. I mean, there's a lot of people there. And the Bible gives us a parenthesis there. Verse I said, all these were sons of Heman, the king's seer. Now, think about it. Look at the pedigree of these people that were called to come and lead worship. Okay, these were the sons of Heman, the king's seer. They were given through the promise of God to exalt him. They were giving him through the promise of God to exalt him. God gave Heman 14 sons and 3 daughters. Can you imagine 4 plus 3, that's 17. That's 17. And all of them were devoted. This is what that family is known for. When I was reading this thing, I thought about musically inclined families. I thought about families like the Osborne family in Utah. Some of you that maybe grew up listening to Donnie and Marie Osborne. Remember them? So many children. And I think Marie was either the only girl or one of the girls. Then I think about the Jackson family. You think about all those families. Can you imagine having family like that? And all of them, this is their job. He said all these men were under supervision of their father for the music of the temple of the Lord. That father was a seer, who was a prophet. All these men, they were under the supervision of their father, for the music of the temple of the Lord. So it was at that time that David, as a song leader himself, worship leader, he now gave an order, whatever. They began to collect the songs. They began to collect the songs. They began to pilot. David too wrote, quite a number of songs. So they were under, for the temple of the Lord, with cymbal. You guys know that's with cymbal, with lyre, with harp, for the ministry of the house of God. Now, Asaph, Jeduthun and Heman were under the supervision of the king. So you can see now these men supervised their children, their household, and these men themselves were supervised by the king. This was a serious business. So along with their relatives, all of them were trained and they were skilled in music for the Lord. They numbered 288 people. 200. I want you to think about the choir. 288. Young, old alike. Teacher as well as students. They cast lots for their duties. Let's say you talk about being organized. All of them in your family, young people, they now cast lot, okay, in this time of the day, who's going to lead in this time of the day, who's going to lead whatever there. So the first lot, which was for Asaph, fell on Joseph, his sons, his relatives, 12 of them. And the second to Gedaliah, him and his relative and sons, 12. Then the third, Zachor, his son and relative, 12. Then the fourth was Israel and his sons and relative, 12. The fifth was Nathaniel, sons and relative, 12. The sixth was Bukai, sons and relative, 12. Then the seventh was Joseph, sons and relative, 12. Then the eighth was Joshua, Songs relating to, and we went there all the way, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, all the way to the 24th was Ramathi Isa. Songs are relative 12. Now, so what does all this mean for us today? Now, so as I talk about these passages, you have to think deep, for to be able to choose something out of this. And by the way, that is the entire chapter 12. I just skipped a few lines, and that's the entire chapter 12. We have all these 288 men, different families singing. So this passage, what I see here is that actually you see a highlight of groups in Israel, and they were not, I know, maybe we need to start using a better word. They are not song leaders. All right. Song leaders are people who lead songs. I mean, in the Yoruba language, people who entertain, they are called osere. They play music. They just, but here the Bible said that they were worship leaders. The worship leaders made up of musicians, seers, gatekeepers. They were assigned to protect, and to steward this let's say, this sacred atmosphere around God's presence. So when we come, before God, these men, we have among them are seers, among them are gatekeepers, musicians, prophets, worship leaders. They were supposed to protect this atmosphere for every one of us. So they were not entertainers. Unfortunately, today in many congregations, even in ours too, people, worship leaders are becoming more of entertainers, and I'm going to explain to you why. Hopefully, without any prejudice, they were appointed servants. Okay, so I'm just trying to take a sip. These guys were appointed servants, and their job was to, they carried a huge responsibility for spiritual purity. So I know when we come to church, we think about, okay, maybe I'm sure we don't use those words anymore. People say, oh, we've come to the most important parts of the service. They will say the communion, or sometimes some zealous an announcer will go up there and say, now for the main theme of the service, the preaching. No, listen, every part of the service is important. There's no one that is more important than the other. We've come there, all of us. When we do things like that, even though we do it innocently, what we do is that we're diminishing, without knowing it, we're diminishing certain parts. So people think that coming to worship is entertainment. These men were not entertainers at all. They were men who were appointed servants. They were to carry responsibility for spiritual purity. The purity of the congregation depends on this man. They were prophetic music that they were singing, and they were disciplined worship. And all this cover worship for all of us. The main reason is that worship is not casual. Not okay, let's go and worship. Come on, just so casual. So you have to be in the zone. And that's why Israel, when they are coming from their towns and villages, even to come to the temple, there are psalms that these men have written to prepare their hearts. Before you come to the temple, it's called the Psalms of the Ascents. When they are ascending to Jerusalem, they are singing it as they are coming. They're only preparing their minds as they are coming. So they are not coming to worship, to be fired up to worship. They are already worshiping. Think about the songs, some of the songs that we have there. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts. I'm not saying, he didn't say, when I enter, I will not be praying. No, I will enter with praise. They are already praising. So that means that the way David and this man put it together, worship is intentional. Worship is something that is guarded. Worship is, never people who took God's presence seriously. They are not entertained. When they want them to come and whatever. Today we have so many people today who cannot even differentiate. The difference between average Afrobeat musicians in Nigeria and people who sing in churches. Today, people sing for money. And I don't know about you. I think about a year or two ago, there was a major or like something was said in the religious world. I don't know which of the pastors that said for whatever reason, but some pastors began to question the real motive behind. I think I'm getting some feedback there. So if your microphone is on, you might want to turn it off at this time. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, so some pastors began to question the motive, behind so many so-called worship leaders we had in there. Some pastors that I believe that were old. A situation where, and I think maybe in our church, I don't know if it has happened before, where some song leaders were for hire, worship leaders, what they do just to go from one church, they go and sing, they go and whatever to another church, to get for prophetic for whatever. So to the point where, and I don't say some people do this for a living, okay, do for a living, it's okay, they're musicians, whatever, where it gets to a position where they are virtually charging the same amount that some of these big stars, big Afrobeat stars will charge for events. I mean, if someone like something or something goes to an event and what he's doing is to play Osere, I mean, they're paying for that. But it's a thin line between worship leaders. How do they offer their services free to their congregation? And how they do it? And of course, I can also throw a similar jab at preachers, Pentecostal preachers today who practically preach for money. I mean, they'll tell you before I come home, my for that crusade, my something is 300 million or whatever, private jets, all about this, all about, so like, where do you draw the line between serving God and becoming a businessman? So God appoints guardians for worship. There are people who guarded the worship. Don't like you have soldiers, even temple, soldiers. There were some part of the tribe of the Levitical priesthood that they were warriors. They were supposed to be temple guards. In the same way, there are also people who were appointed to also guard the worship. So David, the Bible says, together with his commanders, they set apart Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun and their sons for worship. They were consecrated, they were set apart, they were sanctified. That was their job. So they were not just chosen randomly. It was very strategic. They were selected. These people were trained, these people were anointed. Think about what verse 1 says. It says they prophesied with harps, lyre, and of course, cymbal. They prophesied. They were speaking on behalf of God. The same thing I do when I come up to preach. I speak on behalf of God. I prophesy. This means that their music carries spiritual weight. It was not just to make you feel good. It reveals God's heart. It shapes the nation's faith. Somebody said that when you sing, when you sing, you can do three things at the same time. You can pray when you're singing. You can evangelize when you're singing. You can worship, you can do as you can do, just singing. So that's why we need to listen. We need to listen more to the lyrics. And I know in our culture, everything is beats. Everything is beats. It has to be beats. That's why sometimes if the instrument that David introduced to worship was also the accompanying this worship. They are accompaniment. They are not the main. But today it's almost like we are not accompanying the instrument. So I've seen situations where somebody comes up, come on now, and it's waiting, whatever. Easy beats. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with the beat. All I'm saying that can we focus? Paul tells the Corinthian Christian, I'm going to sing with my mouth, I'm going to sing with my brain, my heart. I'm going to connect them together. I had a very interesting experience this year in Turkey. So we were in Turkey for a very unique experience where we have Christian professors, university lecturers, teachers from all over the world come together. This year was a 500, so 1,300 or something anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, the famous Council of Nicaea. And so we had this thing we call the 7 churches, this thing. And that was where myself and Gilbert were. Every single time, most of the time before we go out, we will come together. And at the very first class was a challenging one. This is the first or the last class. And it was Professor Jacobi that was asked to come and lead. I mean, these people are from different denominations. They are not ICOC, and everything. We were the only ICOC that were there from different denominations. Most of them conservative. And I remember a Turkish Christian was the one that led the worship. This guy would come, and what we were singing were hymns. And the only accompaniment was a guitar that one of them was playing. But we sang it in very different way that I've always been singing it. We were singing it thinking more about the words. Before we sang any song, the worship leader would tell us the meaning of those songs, the history behind those songs, what those songs are supposed to do, and cause us as we sing or as we sang that we should focus on it. And we sang Jedi. Of course, we were in a business, and we sang Jedi. This was in a Muslim country that we were doing this. And there's no way you can sing and worship God that way, that you are the same. Let's look at it. Oh, sorry, spilling my tea here. If you think about it, Asaph family was known for being bold spiritual worship leaders for generations. I mean, you will see the sons of Asaph. They were very bold. These guys were like in your face kind of people. Jeduthun for family, they emphasize praises and thanksgiving. That was their style. Then of course, Heman's family, they carry depth, lament, and intercession. So when it comes to those songs of lament, if you look at them, those songs of lament, those songs of doom that really bring your soul down, the Heman's family were the ones that were there. When we talk about some emphasizing praise, thanksgiving, the joy, it was Jeduthun's family, but the Christian family, people. These are the kind of songs that you want to sing when you're going to war. The those songs when they needed Israel needed encouragement, and those songs were sung for generations to come. By the time you go to verse 7 or down, the Bible said that they were trained and skilled in music for the Lord. Now think about it. I don't know about you, and I could be wrong, but do you know they were thinking about it? I was like, wait a minute. Do you realize that about 90%, if not more, really, about 90% of musicians, singers all over the world, including Nigeria, when they tell their story, they will all tell you that they started singing from a church. All of them. One day, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Don Jazzy, all of them was church. Don Jazzy was a drummer. In his father's church, then in his uncle's church in UK, whatever. Virtually all musicians, virtually all from church, they all started from singing in church, Dolly Parton, all of them was church. Churches are the ones that have produced so many singers. But interestingly, those singers that began from praising and worshiping God became secular, because they gave it more to the popular demand. And that is why I used to tell some disciples who want to go into music, I say it's going to be hard for you to blow. It's going to be hard to blow unless you really stick to your God. It's going to be very hard for you to blow, because very soon you might say, okay, I'm singing, gospel, I'm singing whatever there. But when you are singing for commercial purposes, it's not very hard for you to stay the course without drifting away. So that's why that will happen to many people. And for those who have stuck their God, whatever they have sacrificed fame and fortune. And for those who are growing today, what they're simply doing is playing Afro beats and just thinking some small of Jesus there and whatever there. The dance are the same, musical videos are the same, everything is practically the same. But these people were trained and skilled for music for the Lord. It was just a casual talent. Yeah, they had a talent, but they were groomed specifically for this. It was still worship. All right, it was, we still worship, and it was a service that was offered to King of Glory. In my last class with the School of Mission, we just finished a trimester. So I've been preaching, teaching, and doing so many other things. And I was telling them, I said, we're looking at preaching and teaching. That's what our semester, the act of preaching and teaching. I said, when you climb up there on the pulpit, it is all for God. That will be. So and that is why listen, you might not, my calling is not with being on staff. Anybody can be on staff. My calling is with God. My calling, I have a personal calling. Now you cannot take that personal calling and go to office and say, I have a calling, you pay me salary. No. Now I may have been on staff for over about 31 years, but even when I'm not paid to do that, I feel a responsibility. I feel I was designed to do what I'm doing. I feel I will betray God and the guilt if I don't continue to do what I'm doing, whether I'm being remunerated or not. So that is what these worship leaders were. They had a special connection with God. So in ancient times, and I'm stretching my voice here, in ancient times, when I look at the ancient time in history, worship was not just a casual, it was a national responsibility. Musicians, they served full time in the temple. These musicians were not just casual, come and say, they were full time singers. That was what they do. So if you see songs like "Come Praise the Lord," "In servants of the Lord," "Who stand by night in the house of the Lord," they sang around the clock. When you enter the temple, you will hear their voice. At night, they are singing. They compose songs. They compose songs of victory, songs of lament, songs that operate to stir the hearts of men and women. Their rule kept Israel aligned every time with the presence of God. When you hear them singing, you align yourself with God. So they were gatekeepers in a way. They were gatekeepers in sound. They were gatekeepers in atmosphere. They were gatekeepers in direction, spiritual direction. They led Israel when Israel come before God. So because of that, I asked myself, and I want you to wonder also with me, how seriously do you regard your worship life? How seriously do you guard your worship life? How seriously? So we are here to worship. I'm created for worship. Every single where I'm created for worship. Now, ask if your devotion does it really reflect training. Your devotion, does it reflect training? Does it reflect discipline? Does it reflect reverence? Especially in this day and age of virtual service, or nobody is there. Even if somebody is there, even if you are there and you there, most of the time when I sing, I try to close my eyes. I don't want to be distracted, and I don't do it deliberately. It's something I just started doing many years ago, just spontaneously. And now I also discovered that when I sing, I kind of mirror the words with my hands. So I try to, and I didn't do that deliberately, but just out of my flow. Sometimes I wish I don't sign writing, sign writing, so that I want to sing with my body. I want to sing with my voice. I want to sing with my hands. I want to sing with every single thing. And that's why I tell myself that I am a guardian of worship also. I protect all the sacred atmosphere around myself, around my home, around wherever I go. And that is what you too should also do. And you should do that because it's very, very, very clear that God values order. God values spiritual discipline. One of the things that I teach at the School of Mission is actually a course on itself. It's a 2-month course called Spiritual Discipline and Character Formation. Spiritual discipline, for example, you've got physical discipline. That would say physical discipline have of some value. So what does it mean? You go to the gym, right? You know when to eat, how to eat, what to eat, you exercise, you sleep well. All those things are disciplines that help you grow. What about spiritual discipline? What are those disciplines that also keep you? Discipline like Bible study, praying, meditation, fasting, chastity, worship, silence. Actually, this discipline, silence, every single thing. So God values order. when scientists look at the stars, they look at it. They don't have to be a Christian or believer in God. When they look at the stars, when they look at the universe, they see order. Things are not just there randomly. There's a reason for everything. And they came up with a word. That word is cosmos. Look at the heavens, they call it cosmos. What's the meaning of cosmos? Cosmos means order. Everything has been ordered. So if everything seems to be in order, that means that somebody must be responsible for ordering it. And the opposite of order is chaos. Opposite of order is chaos. So in the passage, they list 24 divisions of worship leaders. 24 divisions of worship leaders who were there, and they cast lots to determine their role of service. And I really want to thank our sisters here, Bugumi, Mrs. Scott, and Joy, that are there. I mean, who could have ever thought that my sister Bugumi can be a song leader? But you see, but God has a way of just exposing all of us. And we don't know how He did it. We don't know how He did it, but we just found out that they seem to be taking turns. They know exactly the right time to just start singing, the right time. And of course, the men that are here to, Scott, Frank, Bode, we took out. Now imagine if our life can just be like this. They cast lots, to determine the order of service. They removed pride and favoritism. I mean, don't let us speak where we're going to share. None of us really. None of us say, okay, I want to share chapter 1. I want to share. No. Our brothers thought we just drop a timetable, a ruler for us, and wherever you put your name, that's where you're going to be. Wherever it is, in which chapter you put you, that's going to be. And nobody has ever complained, nobody has ever struggled, nobody has ever come and say, no, I can't do that one. No. Everybody puts in their best. And I want to say thank you to everybody. I'll be doing this now for 1 year plus. So we cast on to determine the order, and this one will remove pride, favoritism. When you cast lots, like our brother Body was telling us yesterday, the cast lots, it is where he falls, he actually falls. He won't say, oh, that's what I want, whatever. So that's where there will be nepotism, there will be tribalism, there will be zing, everything. But when you cast lots, where he falls is where he falls. And they trusted that wherever that lot falls is what God wants to do. So, it reminded them that serving God is a calling. God has called you to preach His verse. God has called you to sing this whatever. It is not a competition. It is a service. It is a calling. I'm called to do this, not to compete with anyone. So every man, whether they are young or they are old, teacher or students, they received a place. Everybody. Nobody said, oh, this is because I'm a teacher. I should get this one. No. We cast not everybody, young or old, you get your own share. So they served. I'm not making that rota. They served with rotation. They go when they finish the quarter, they go back again. And this one ensures that worship remains consistent in the temple. Everybody will have their own time. This also teaches us, something very, very important. When I look at these passages, it teaches us 3 things. I want you to listen carefully to what I'm going to say right now. There are 3 things that comes out easily. One, that worship is not only passion. When you fire up, you want to work. Yeah, passion is great, but worship is not only passion. Worship is structure. When you come up there, yes, zeal is great, whatever there, passion, all these things are good, but you have to also structure the passion. Number 2, it is not emotion. Not just only emotion. Emotion, you have to serve God with emotion, but it's not only emotion, it's only commitments. Also commitment. I have heard situations, not now, years ago, where somebody got upset. I'm not going to sing because the person didn't receive the part. They want to, whatever, the microphone, I won't sing. It's not about emotion. It's not about passion. It's structure. Where you are. Sometimes people, they want to juggle to be seen, to be in front. They want to put their mic onto the microphone so that it's not about that. It's a commitment. It's not only, I'm inspired, inspiration. It's also a responsibility. So structure, commitment, responsibility. Historically, when we look at all of these things, this system of division continue for centuries. And I'm going to remind us about that. Even during Jesus' time, before he was born, we found, Zachariah, John the Baptist's father. He belonged to one of these divisions. Many centuries later, they still followed that division. When it's your turn to worship, you are going to come. So this one shows all of us how deeply rooted these people, they respected this assignment. It's not just something casual. It was respected, and worship was what sustained Israel through wars, through kings, through exile, through even when they came back. Remember when they asked them to sing the song of Zion, they were mocking them. They were like, because we know that they were people of the book. People, their own singing, everything's written down, and they were saying that how can we sing the songs of Zion in a foreign land? And that was that song by the rivers of Babylon. Unfortunately, put on the end, maybe it's a pop song, a dance song. It was not a dance song. It was actually a song of lament. He said, how can we sing the songs of Zion? You know what the songs of Zion, Mount Zion, Jerusalem, in a foreign land? So but while they were there, they were still singing, their song. The order preserve purity. The order preserve, devotion all through the years. And we need to ask ourselves at this time, if you will, do you treat your worship life, your personal worship life, with structure and consistency? Do you treat your worship life? Do you do with some structure, consistency? Now, you need more discipline. Now, it depends on when you need more discipline so that your worship can become more of a lifestyle. When you are with God, you are connected with God, you believe you are with God. Even when I walk, I'll tell you guys this, when I walk wherever, and there are some certain worship song I will play at some time. I just want to be in the mood, and I reflect on them, and I begin to sing inwardly, whatever. You need to be able to create all that around you. So I build a steady rhythm of worship when you do that one. Your devotion will not have structure, you will have strength, you will have spiritual focus. Finally, I want to share that. If you look at all this, eventually, I believe that God honors those who guard the presence of God. God honors them. But these men didn't fight on a battle like soldiers, like the mighty men of David. Their battle was spiritual warfare. They fought for purity. They fought for prophetic clarity. They fought for the presence of God. To remain with the nation. They were gatekeepers to protect. They were gatekeepers to protect like physical gates, structures, entrances. But this musician, this men that you see here, they were there to protect the spiritual entrances, to guard Israel. Together, with the physical guards and the spiritual guard, they all ensure that nothing unclean, nothing disrupted the worship of the Israelites. Now, this automatically, these assignments, it requires you to be loyal. It requires loyalty. It requires courage. It requires consistency. So, and that's why if we go back, or we're going to go front now, we're going front. Because we're not in Chronicles, but if we go back to 2 Kings, to the time of King Jehoshaphat, worship leaders stood at the front of the army. They want to go and fight. They put worship leaders in the front, and God was one that helped them defeat the Moabites, and Ammonites. Yes, I think that's 2 Chronicles. The Moabites, we're going to get to go forward, but we're going to go backwards. We're going to see that will happen, and I know that in the next few weeks we're going to get there. So don't we? Hezekiah said, to reform also. Remember Hezekiah, the one that God said, you are going to die, and he said, God, how can I die? Look at what I've done. He also reformed it. Levites, he put the Levites to now restore worship. He revived, all these things. So when he carried all these things out, the revival that he took also includes the worship. Then we need a revival in our worship as a church. We'll come together. So of course, and the dictation of Solomon, to go back a little bit more, the temple musicians and the priests, were ministering under the glory of God, God's glory filled the whole house. Can you imagine you are ministering? So today we have artificial smoke gun, smoke something that just pop smoke on stage, gives you this mystic feeling, But in those days, it's actually glory of God that actually comes out. So the pattern is very clear in this. When worship is gathered, glory will follow. When worship is neglected, decay will follow. That's why entertainment, we want to now be entertained. And then, of course, you carry the same responsibility today. In Israel, it was the same thing. Today, I believe it's also the same thing. Your home, your heart, our churches, we are gatekeepers. People who stand, watch in prayer. People who stand in purity, in praise. You get up there. You must search your heart also. I'm coming to lead the children of God. So are you guarding the spiritual gates of your life at this time? Are you sensitive? What's that word I'm looking for? Are you sensitive, to what enters your heart, to what enters your home, to what enters your worship? Listen, I tell myself, and I think you should tell yourself too, that I guard the gates of my spirit. I also should guard your heart. I welcome what honors God only. I reject anything that weakens my devotion, to God. I know I've said a lot because I'm very passionate about this. And I think as a people, we need to hear this stuff. But I want to stop here. I would like to stop here because I can go on and on this. And I want to see maybe you guys have any reflections you want to share. It would be very good to also hear from any of us in the next few minutes that we have before we go ahead and pray. All right, anybody want to share?